And I want to give clarity so that those who took my words out of context could understand the purpose for which I called our church to prayer. Because there are too many people who are making content without context.
What is causing Philip Anthony Mitchell, the head pastor of 2819 Church, to explode on content creators? Well, in today's video, we're going to peel back the lens and really see everything in its proper context to see if what Philip Anthony Mitchell is saying is actually true, or if he is seemingly gaslighting his congregation and those who are listening. All right, so let's catch us all up before we dive into these clips here. So Philip Anthony Mitchell is the head pastor of 2819 Church in Atlanta, Georgia. This church, from my understanding, meets in a subdivision area, so a school in a subdivision. And it is growing by the thousands, which is now leading people to just start parking in front of people's homes and on the side of people's homes, and it's clustering the residential space area that is there, that subdivision that is there, which is now leading to people calling and complaining. And now city officials are getting involved and saying, hey, listen, you need to tell your members of your church to park somewhere else, or we're kicking you out. And so Philip Anthony Mitchell is taking this as persecution. He is viewing this as persecution. He is calling the people who are upset about this and calling in Karens of the world. He is saying that now the church needs to move and they only have one option. And that one option is not going to be cheap. And we're going to see all of this. And so with that, it's led Anthony to really kind of express his frustration towards content creators who made YouTube videos saying that he was just grabbing for money. So now that we're all caught up, let's take a look at the proper context to all of this.
Now listen to me. If we don't come back to them with a plan in 30 days, we will not have a place to meet. And we have contacted every venue in the city of Atlanta, every arena that can seat 6,000 people, every college, every university. We've contacted every theater. We have full-time real estate agents. We've knocked on every single door. We've spent hundreds of thousands of hours banging every door, and none has opened except one. There is an old facility in Greenbrier. It is old, it is dilapidated, it belonged to an old church that is no longer there, and that is the only door that is rested. It is the only door that is open to us. It belongs to some Jews that stripped the church facility and turned it into a storage, and they are the only ones willing to give us a space for this many people to gather.
Now, there is a catch to this facility, and it is not a cheap one.
They want $250,000 for us to go into the room, and then it would take another $250,000 to just fix that room. There is no lights, there is no sound, there is no screens, there is no chairs, there is no children's space, there is nothing. We would have to go in there and build it out. It would take $500,000 for us to do that in 60 days. Listen to me. And then we only have 24 months there before we're homeless again.
As we can clearly hear in this video clip, 24-month lease. This facility is owned by Jews. They are asking for $250,000 to lease out this facility for 24 months. Now, Philip Anthony Mitchell is saying it's also going to take an additional $250,000 to renovate the place, to add the TV screens, to add the speakers, to basically make this place look as what we see a lot of the time in mega churches, like a production. That's exactly what we're seeing here. Guys, at the end of the day, they can rent out this place for $250,000 for 24, months, and they don't have to do anything drastic to it. They can put some speakers up, they can get a mic, and all of the saints can gather with their kids for the time being. That's what legitimately could happen. That would save you $250,000. You're pouring in $500,000 to a facility that you're not even permanently staying in. That logically does not make any sense. But he keeps saying that it's their only option because they've done all these different things. Let's pump the brakes and really see, is this the only option?
But there is a building. Listen to me. There is one building on Metropolitan Parkway. It's 120,000 square feet of space. It's enough space for all 6,000 of us and our children. It is the only option available to us in this city, and I'm starting to believe it is God's will. That building cost $7 million to acquire and another $12 million plus to fix up. And we have no other, listen to me, we have no other option. So I know no way forward but for us to pray. Look, and not just pray for us first. I will not. We're going to pray for these people who are persecuting us first.
Now we're talking about almost $25 million to put into a church that would permanently be your church. $25 million. That's a lot of money, guys, for a church building. At the end of the day, guys, when people were making these content reaction videos to what he was saying, and they were saying, hey, this seems like a money grab deal. I mean, these are large numbers being thrown around, and I understand this idea of expressing to your congregation, hey, listen, this is how much it's going to cost. As a church, you can easily call in a church member meeting only and have the members of the church come into a private meeting where you share this information. You do not need to go out publicly and say, hey, yeah, basically, this is what we need, $25 million, and then go on Daystar, which is a health, wealth, prosperity gospel TV program, and express this as well. And then twist this to make it seem like you're facing all of this persecution. This is because people are calling and saying, hey, I don't like the fact that I have thousands of cars parked in front of my house and in my residential neighborhood. That's not persecution. We don't need to blow something up to what it's not. And I don't know personally enough about Philip Anthony Mitchell. This came across my plate just a few days ago, and my wife and I just had a baby, so I haven't been able to react to it as soon as I wanted to. But guys, this just doesn't seem wise. It doesn't seem financially smart. This doesn't seem like truly the only option. I know he's expressing that heavily, that it's their only option, but there's no way $25 million is their only option. I mean, the early church, guys, we can look back at the early church. I understand different times, but they didn't need to gather in fancy places. Look at churches, most churches around the world. Here in America, it's easy to look at churches and say, we have comfortable cushions and chairs and buildings and the lights and the TV screens and LED screens and all of that good stuff. But most churches in the world are not gathering in fancy buildings. But that's the thing here, guys. What's the appeal? What's the appeal to 2819 Church if you're just gathering in a very basic building? What's the appeal if you're just gathering at a tent outside? What's the appeal there? There is none. What are you drawing people in with? And that's what we should also be asking when it comes to seeing this. And so now we're going to see in this next clip Philip Anthony Mitchell really call out the people who made reaction videos to this.
And I want to give clarity so that those who took my words out of context could understand the purpose for which I called our church to prayer. Because there are too many people who are making content without context. Our church has rapidly grown by the thousands over the last couple months. And as a result of that, it has stressed this facility and this community, okay? For months, this created pressure externally on our church to vacate this community and to find another location for us to gather. Okay. This pressure had been building for many months, and it was relentless and it was ongoing. Okay. This created a need for us to find a larger venue for our family of some 6,000 of us to gather somewhere outside of this space that is stressed by our foot traffic. Okay, we've contacted every university, every high school, every venue, every theater, any place that was large enough for our family. We've been contacting these places for months.
Now, let's let Anthony keep fleshing this out.
Many people took my words out of context and spend the whole week creating false narratives that I stood on a platform and was begging people for money. Family, listen to me. That is a gross mischaracterization of who I am as a man, and it was a gross taking out of context my words. It is to assume that we have been poor stewards. It's to assume that God has not been financially kind to our church. And it's to assume that the gift of one person could deliver us from our troubles. This is inaccurate information. I would not have stood up on a platform in America, any place in this country, and beg anybody for $1. For you have no record in 12 years of pastoral ministry. Not a sermon, not an event of Philip Anthony Mitchell ever standing on a platform and begging people for money like our church is in trouble. I'm the same person, the same pastor that had a service in an arena and took up no offering. I'm the same pastor with over 50 full-time employees. Our church is well taken care of and well funded. And if you was listening to what I said, you'd have heard that I called our church to prayer, watch this, for favor.
All right. So he's making it seem like he wasn't begging for money. He may not have seemed like he was begging for money on his hands and knees and doing that, but he kept bringing that up. And not once was he asking the congregants to pray for favor. And I watched these videos fool him through, and I did not hear that language come out of his mouth. He did say to pray for the Jews who they're renting from, that they would have a heart change, and to pray for those who have been calling into the church. He is saying to pray for that stuff. But guys, we can't pretend that it doesn't sound like a money grab when you're expressing how much money it's going to cost publicly live. You're going on Daystar Television Network expressing this. You're doing this stuff. And then to hear him boast about how he never took up an offering when he preached at an arena. Why are we boasting about that? His posture and everything. Guys, there's too many red flags with the situation. $25 million is what they need. $500,000 for a 24 lease. He is asking for that. He's also asking for prayer. And he's also asking to pray for those who he feels like are persecuting him. I don't know enough about him and their church This came across my plate recently, and I just haven't had time to catch up and discuss this. But I would love to know your thoughts below. So if you could, guys, please consider subscribing. Hey, like this video, leave a comment down below, and just give me your thoughts on this whole 2819 church situation. And if you think he's being honest here or if he's gaslighting.